Apologies, everyone, and apologies for my voice, the cracky voice. I've had a cold. Sorry about that. But Charles, I guess you can start, and then people will start joining us as we go on.
Okay, that sounds good. Again, welcome everyone to the webinar that we're presenting at GDI Consulting. This is for the HCaTS, specifically for the secondary offering here, and this is for the small business Pool 1 on-ramp. So the release has finally occurred as of the end of last year. We'll be participating. Obviously, you guys have linked in through WebJam here. So we'll talk real briefly here about how this is being handled. The webinar is recorded, and the link to everyone who has logged in here is going to be available and emailed out to you at the email address that you submitted. And are using currently. We'll have a Q&A at the end of the session. So we'll go through the entire slide deck here, the PowerPoint slide deck. And as you go, please send your questions to us via the chat function on the right side of your screen there, the dialog box. We'll be able to see those real time. I'll be able to acknowledge and address maybe some of the more simple ones as we go along, but the ones that are most useful to the group, we will capture those and present them in a Q&A at the end of the presentation. Finally, the download is available of the entire presentation. There's going to be a file option on the right-hand side panel of the window there, and that is once the presentation excuse me, is completed and saved, you'll be able to download a copy of the presentation itself. Or I'm sorry, that's for the slide deck. The webinar itself will be available once it's recorded, but the slide deck will be available under the file menu. And with that, let me hand things back over to Ab himself.
Okay, my name is Ab Vand. I head our Capture and Proposal Development Department. I wanted to explain first why we are holding this webinar, and then go into more details with Charles in different aspects of HCaTS. The HCaTS is a self-scoring system, and self-scoring systems are new to everyone. People are used to the conventional ways of writing proposals, which has usually, a technical volume, a management volume, price volume, things like that. But self-scoring systems are completely new, so it's important to understand how they work and how to tackle them, in fact. And then based on that, many companies don't know how to do a go, no-go, as the requirements are very complex in these self-scoring systems. And there are many unknowns with regards to the proposal development, because there are different aspects that we have to take a look at. Well, GDI has done a lot of self-scoring in the past. We got 4 wins on HCaTS when it was originally put out in 2016, including both the small business and unrestricted. We got 8 wins on the Oasis, 6 wins on the Alliant. And there are others. Self-scoring seems to be the wave. So there are many others that we've had a very successful background on. And we've had a lot of experience with these self-scoring systems, and we know what the problems involved are. And we have, in fact, developed a scoring matrix that is special to these. We developed that for each of these. So we have developed one for HCaTS. We'll get into details for that. This is going to help us a lot with regards to how to actually select the projects that we need and maximize our scores. And we'll get to that later. So our goal today is essentially become familiar with the new scoring, self-scoring systems, know what the HCaTS requirements are, how we can maximize our score, what the compliancy barrier is, and I'm going to show you some graphs that are very heartbreaking in terms of compliancy. And then we're going to go into details on understanding the self-scoring system, how to do a go-no-go analysis, and also what can go wrong in your proposal submission, the do's and don'ts that you have to take care of, and how to actually prepare a winning proposal. So with that said, the outline of our webinar will be, first we'll give you some general information about HCaTS, then we'll explain the key service areas that it covers, KSAs as they call them. Then we'll discuss minimum requirements for HCaTS. Then we'll go into self-scoring, what the volume structure is, the scoring system, and some of the downfalls and things to watch for, as well as your win strategy. And finally, we'll get to a Q&A session. So Charles, you can take over from here.
Oh, can everyone hear me? Just had my microphone turned off there. Sorry. So we are at the general information about the offering here for HCaTS. To catch everyone up, that this is a GSA offering, and there had been some pre-release information and some tentative RFP information that was released, but the official RFP was released on December 20th of last year. The due date for the responses is on February 8th of this year, 2019. So we're working with just under a month here. The solicitation number here is the 47 QREB 19R and 0001. And if you look under the FedBiz Ops website, you can locate that solicitation and download the appropriate documentation, the RFP itself, the associated files, etc., for an official response, or at least the instructions for official response. That does not include the add-ons in the preparation and the scoring sheet, additional work that we've done at GDI to help facilitate that process. Also, the valid GDIC codes for this offering are the three that are listed on the screen here. They're all 6 codes. They're 611430, 611699, and 624310. The primary, we'll get into that a little bit later, but the primary is the top NAICS code, the 611430. The contract period here is it's an offering for initially a 2-year period of performance with another 5-year option period. So we're talking about a total of 7 years. I think we've got a misprint there, Ab, unless it is 5 and 5. But I think this one is 2 and 5.
Yeah, for new companies it's 7, but since it's been out since 2016, it's 10 years overall.
Okay. So, obviously this is a multiple award IDIQ, so multiple task orders for those who are joining the on-ramp. Those who are awarded contracts will be eligible to bid on multiple task orders as they become available. The number of awards is estimated at 30. This is 30 in addition to existing on-ramp members, those who have already been awarded incumbent contractees, and there are 4 for each of the socioeconomic groups You can see a listing of those in the RFP, but their attempt is to catch up to a fair representation in each of those groups. So they will be evaluating the responses in the scoring based on what Ab describes later, but they are also going to be paying attention to which of those socioeconomic groups are being addressed. The maximum contract ceiling value is $2.5 billion. That's for the entirety of the 30 contracts anticipated awarded. And the set aside is total small business, as we were saying here, the SB Pool 1. The size standard is a target of about 11 million per contract. And this is obviously going to be variable depending upon the submission and the response. The dates to note again are the RFP was issued back on December 20th. The nearest and most immediate date is January 21st for questions that are due. Things that are inconsistent or unclear in the RFP or in the process of submission can be submitted by email to the CEO of this offering by January 21st. And that is, as at current, that is a hard stop. Sometimes they allow for questions to come in afterwards and do amendments, but plan on getting the most important ones in by that date in case they don't offer that flexibility. Proposals are due again on February 8th at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be aware of the time zone so that doesn't cause any issues. And the contract award itself, once the contracts awardees are selected, will be in the fourth quarter of the year 2019. The areas of service they're called key service areas throughout the RFP, and these are basically your focuses, your disciplines. There are three of them that they do focus on. This is customized training development services. There's this customized human capital strategy services, and finally, organization performance improvement. So in those situations, when you are citing your past performance and your relevant pool references, you're talking about essentially training. You're talking about human capital, meaning the resources and the roles that you have supplied, and then also organization performance improvement, management assessment of overall performance on the contract for the client, the customer. And finally, the small business NAICS 611430, that's the primary we were talking about. So in those referenced and your submitted referenced projects, in those instances, they will be falling under that NAICS code. You should be the prime on the submitted relevant experience project contracts. The contract should have a customized component, and they should have at least one of the key service areas. Although, as Ab will cover later, when you're working through your scoring sheet, you are eligible for additional points for multiple service areas if you've addressed those in one of your relevant experience project contracts. The value of the contract is important. $25,000 per year minimum is their floor on that one, their threshold. They must have been performed during the last 5 years, and the period of performance needs to be a minimum of 3 months. The 4 out of the 6 contracts overall that you submit as eligibility for this offering should have the NAICS codes that we mentioned there. Those are the 3 that I mentioned at the top of this presentation. Excuse me. An important distinction, not always part of an offering, is that there are not joint ventures and CTAs allowed on this, and that is to be consistent with previous offering. So that is something to be aware of when you're deciding to pursue this and how you respond. In the past performance rating, how you performed on the you submitted projects and contracts that you cite should have a minimum rating of 3.0. So 3 out of the 5 is what you need in order to submit a contract prior. So with that, I believe, Eb, I'm going to hand things back over to you.
Okay. The volume structure for the proposal has 5 volumes. You're supposed to prepare 2 DVDs and create these volume structures on the DVDs and put all the files, no print, and then submit to GSA. Volume 1 is eligibility, essentially, proving that you have the minimums. Volume 2 is the responsibility, essentially your statements, yearly statements, annual financial statements, and Section K and those areas. Volume 3 is the main part, which is the relevant experience projects and past performance. So all the scoring essentially goes into Volume 3. Volume 4 is accreditation. So that's that. In this one, in HCaTS, unlike, for example, Oasis or others, here the score is very low. We'll get to that. But for things like, for example, approved purchasing system or ISO certifications or any of those, you get extra points for them, but the points you get is very low compared to, for example, past performance or relevant experience projects. And then finally, Volume 5, pricing. There's no scoring there. You just provide pricing here. It's a straightforward thing. Although many people are not familiar with how to provide this kind of pricing, it's very easy, so we can always help you on that. It is not a very complex thing. You just have to give direct prices for different categories, and then put in your fringe benefits, profit, and other percentages to calculate, and pricing is calculated automatically. So this is essentially the volume structure, but let's discuss the self-scoring system itself. For those of you who are not familiar with self-scoring systems, on the front, it looks to be very simple. Essentially, what you do is you assess yourself and give yourself score, fill it out in a self-scoring spreadsheet that the government has provided. And then you substantiate your score. In other words, you provide documents to prove it. So that's it seems that simple. Whereas really it's a very complex system that they put. And then what the government does, they look at the self-scoring system that you've put. They make sure that there's compliance. And if there's no compliance, they'll just, because they get so many so many proposals, the first thing they want to look for is if you don't have, if you've not done it the way they want it, they'll just put aside your proposal. So that's the first thing they will do. They'll check for compliance and remove any non-compliant proposals. After that, they're going to rank the proposals based on the score, check the substantiations, and then pick the top 30 companies with the highest score. Of course, for them to speed up the process, they do that from the beginning. In other words, from the self-scoring sheets, because there's each company will provide a number. They're going to list the top 30, go through the process that I mentioned, and if they're good, that's it. They're not going to even look at the rest. So, but if there are compliance issues, they'll remove that proposal and go to the next one. So it's very important first to have the high score and also to be compliant, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So The scoring system for HCaTS, as Charles mentioned, is essentially you have to provide 6 contracts with that have been completed within, it says 3, that's a mistake, last 5 years, and these need to have been an annual value of 25,000 and above. Now, based on that, the split of the scoring is past performance. In other words, the past performance scoring for those 6 contracts, you get 15,000. For experience, in other words, the KSAs, you get 8,200. The other attributes of the projects, like their value, whether you had multiple subcontractors, how long they took, all of that you can get score for. It's 5,110, and all the certifications and things like that is only 160. So you can see from this, and the total comes to 28,470. You can see from this that past performance is the most important factor in selecting those 6 projects. And then added to that are the experience and the other attributes of the projects that together, the experience and the other attributes come to 13,310, which is still less than past performance. So as you can see, past performance is really the most crucial, important factor that we should consider when we're going to pick the contracts that we want to present to the government. So what can go wrong in our proposal? Compliance, compliance, and compliance again. In other words, you have to go by the book 100%, or they will just put your proposal aside. You might have the best, but if you make the slightest mistake, they're just looking for that, because they get so many so many proposals that that's the easiest way to just weed out the proposals and then reduce it to a number that they can actually manage. So you need to make sure that you're really compliant. Now, another thing that can go wrong with this with these self-scoring systems is that many times you need to get signatures from contracting officers. For example, if you don't have a CPARS, you need to fill out a past performance questionnaire, get it signed by, it's a special form, get it signed by the CO and get it back to you. You have to submit it with your proposal. It's not like the other RFPs that the contracting officer will submit it to the government directly. No, that's not the case. They have to send it back to you. So if you move late on that, you're going to have problems, or you might need to change the next code of one of your contracts. There's a special form for it that you can actually do that. If you think the next code should be changed to one of the 3 next codes, you can get a signature from the CO, and that's acceptable. But again, you shouldn't leave that to the last day. What can go wrong is also not maximizing your score, because at the end, which contracts you pick, which 6 you pick, is very important, and also how you substantiate it. So these go hand in hand, maximizing and substantiation. If you don't properly substantiate it, if you don't provide the documentation, you're not going to get the score, and your score will decrease. So it's very important to maximize and at the same time substantiate properly. And then submission is always a problem. We've had cases where our clients who were supposed to submit had made mistakes. We have learned from that, so we always work with our clients to make sure that in terms of submission, there's no delay or the processes are correct. On this one, there's a proposal tracking form that you have to fill out. It's a government form that you have to fill out, and they have emphasized that you should do that. So that's one of the things that to watch for. Now, to give you an idea of the non-compliance history, this is about the initial HCaTS. On the small business side, 66 companies were eliminated due to compliance, and only 29 were selected. This is for Pool 1 and Pool 2. Pool 1, only 11 were selected. So you can see only 29 as a whole. That's 18 on Pool 2 and 11 on Pool 1. And 66 were eliminated because they did not do it properly. They did not present their proposal properly. And you shouldn't think that it's only small businesses. When you go to unrestricted large businesses, nearly 50% of the companies that provided proposals were eliminated. So compliance is a very important issue that you should be aware of, and you should make sure that you don't run into problems with that. So what should your win strategy be? First of all, you should do a thorough go, no-go review. Make sure that you do have the minimum requirements so that you don't put time, effort, money into something that at the end you're not going to win. As I mentioned previously, past performance is king. You get the highest score on that. So selection of the 6 contracts should be primarily based on past performance. So you should go for those past performance contracts. I mean, the projects that have exceptional past performance, and that will give you the highest scoring. Maximizing your score is another thing that you should look for. I will show you what our self-scoring matrix will do for that, because that's going to help you a lot. You need to understand what each contract brings you at the end, the maximum number that each contract brings. For example, you might think that a contract, because it has the highest value, is going to give you a high score, but that's not the case. The overall picture, the overall score for each of those 6 contracts is what's going to drive this. So we need a mechanism to actually find out about that, and that's I will show you what the self-scoring matrix that we've created will do for you on that. Maximizing the use of your commercial projects. HCaTS is perhaps one of the few contracts that you can use your past performance on the commercial side. In other words, although you get more score if you have federal experience, but you can in fact bring in 6 contracts on the commercial side. So even if you haven't worked with the government before at all, that is fine, because you get most of the score if you've done it on the commercial side.
All right. I'm assuming that that was just an audio drop on Ab's end. So I'm going to try to push forward a little bit as we go, and hopefully he will be able to reestablish connection there and maybe some audio. So the main things to keep in mind as we're going, we're talking about past performance, maximizing your score using the GDI self-scoring matrix. We have a quick shot of that we can show you in a bit, that basically describes what goes into the self-scoring sheet that they've required in order to show what the attributes and the focuses were of your past projects. But it allows you also to kind of see where those compliances fit and which ones need more attention. It kind of gives you more of a rolled up sleeves approach to working on your score and making sure you don't overlook anything. Finally, maximize the use of your commercial projects. The idea is to take the projects that have the most weight for you, the ones that will score the highest, and then use those. And your scoring sheet will help you to do that. You can look at it for multiple projects, whereas the one you submit is once you've selected your highest scoring projects. You can drop those in and submit them. So you want to be able to do kind of a side-by-side comparison. And then finally,
Do you hear me, Charles?
oh, you just came back in.
Okay. Okay, I was
So,
hearing you. Sorry about that.
no problem.
Yes, let me take over then.
Yep.
Yes, so you covered the commercial projects, as you said. Sometimes you might get more score for commercial projects. And as I mentioned, probably not everybody heard it. In fact, you can have all your 6 projects being commercial. That is allowed. You will not get the score for federal projects. That's 300 points for each. So you lose that, but sometimes you might get, in fact, more score even if you bring in commercial projects. So that's something to consider. Even companies that haven't done any contracts with the government can participate in this and might actually win because they've done well on the 6 commercial projects. Now, use friendly COs to maximize is another issue. This we have learned by doing other self-scoring systems that you can actually get correct many of your contracts that, for example, don't have the correct next code. You ask the CO to change the next code. Sometimes they do that. Or for past performance, for example, if you don't have if you don't have a CPARs and you have COs who are friendly and are quick in to reply back to you, you can fill out we'll help you, of course, fill out the past performance questionnaire, send it to them, they'll sign and send it back. So and this way you can maximize your score. So that's another point to consider. And then as usual, compliance, that is a part of your win strategy. You should look for it and make sure that you're being compliant at all stages of the work. So how we can help you? We know that the 3 things that are needed here are to understand the requirements and how to win, to gauge your chances of winning, and to ensure you're compliant. So what we've done is we've created our self-scoring matrix. So to understand what that does, I will show you. I'll have to share my screen and show you first what the government is providing, and then we'll see. This is what the government is providing to the industry for self-scoring. So essentially, you just have to put in the name of the contract and say whether it's federal or not, what KSAs it covers. So this is the self-scoring sheet that you will fill out at the end. What it does not help you with is which contract to actually use. Whether I should use, for example, 2017 contract with NASA, or whether I should use my 2016 contract with the Navy. Which one should I use? Because it's not possible to use different contracts for different parts of this scoring. At the end, you have to decide the 6 contracts that you're going to present. So you have to present their past performance. You also have to present which KSAs they cover, all of that. So instead of doing that, we have devised a sheet that I'm going to share with you now. This is our self-scoring sheet that I showed you initially at the beginning of the this webinar. What this does is, for each contract is a row on this. So you might have, say, 10 contracts. So you put in all your contracts in here, and then this sheet tells you and helps you find out, first of all, whether it has the minimum requirements, and it shows by color. For example, this says minimum qualifications. Let me make it a little bit larger so you can see it better. And here, that's too large. Okay. Now, here you can see that under the minimum qualifications, they're green, except for this one. So when this is red, I know that I'm not going to use this contract. Why? Because the annual value is 16,000, is less than 25,000. So this I'm not going to use. That tells me that. So this essentially, this worksheet, first of all, tells us whether each contract has the minimum qualifications. For example, this one also doesn't have it. Reason is that it is not actually the date, I should say, as an example, is say, make it clear, correct, 11th of 21st of November 2018. That means that it doesn't have 3 months of past performance. So we can't use that. So you have you need to have a minimum of 3 months. So this one doesn't have it. The 3 months minimum should start. You go from February 8th, 2019. So that covers the end date. So from there, you have to have had at least 3 months of performance on each project. So this one is out too. Now, let me make it smaller so you can see. The other information that this gives is to the right here, for each of the categories that the government is going to score, this sheet gives you all the score, and all you do is you put a 1 here. For example, if this contract is between 13 to 37 months, you put a 1 and you get the score. The score is added here in the total score. So if I change that, for example, if this was between 37 to 61 months, I put 1 there, remove this 1, and the score is automatically updated. So at the end of the day, when I fill out the form for all the contracts, then I have my contracts and their score. So I know which contracts I can use and which I cannot. And how to maximize. Also note that since 4 out of 6 need to have the proper NACs, and when you see the red here, it means that this doesn't have the proper NACs. So it also tells me that this I cannot use this. So at the end, when I look at all these red numbers, I can see that this one, for example, this contract, and these 3 contracts, and this one are the ones that I can use. Now, these are prime contracts on the federal side. Now, I might have also 2 different types. One is commercial contracts that I can put in here. And also there is an exception for being prime. If you were a subcontractor to a prime federal government contract, you can use that, but it will be considered as a commercial contract. So I'll repeat that. In the requirements, in the minimum requirements, we said that you need to be prime on all contracts. There is an exception. If you were subcontractor to a federal contract, so there was a prime and you were a sub to that for a federal contract, you can use that project, but it will be considered as a commercial contract. So you don't get this 300 points score for being a federal contract, but you can still use it. So this way, sometimes you get more score. For example, this might be you're getting 39.75 on one of these, whereas the ones you had you were prime on a federal contract, you're getting 35 or 34. So also this is another factor that you should consider, or the commercial contracts as well as subs under federal contracts. So based on all of that, this sheet tells you which contracts at the end to pick, which 6, and what your maximum contract value, maximum score will be. And it gives you different scenarios for using different types of contracts. So we've devised this sheet to help our clients maximize their scores and also pick the best contracts that they want. So to continue back, the services we can provide to you is the initial go, no go. We can do that for any companies. And we suggest that you do, whether with us or with another company or yourself. The initial go, no go is very important. We ask for $500, but I mean, you can do it with any company as you wish. But it is important that you do that before actually diving into the full development cycle. We do the full development cycle of the proposal. We fill out the scoring assessment and optimization, the scoring sheet that I showed you. We prepare all the forms for you, and then assemble the entire proposal, and do multiple compliancy checks to make sure. And we usually put a team of 2 to 3 people on each contract to make sure that things are not missed by one person in the compliancy. We also do reviewing and auditing for those companies who want to do it themselves. We don't suggest that to companies, but some companies have done it before, so they're well versed with doing self-scoring. And in those cases, we can do reviewing and auditing. Essentially, we do a compliancy check for them, 2 rounds of it, and we also do optimization checks to make sure that they're using the best scores that they can. So if you download the presentation slides, my email and Charles's emails are there. So if you wanted to communicate with us, you can do that. And with that said, we get to the question and answer period. My apologies for the delay. We have lost some time for the Q&A, but we will try to answer as many as we can. But if you don't have time and you have to drop out, you can always come back, and we will also send everyone the questions and the answers, so you will use the responses. So Charles, let's go with the Q&A then. Okay.
Can you hear me okay? I'm just double checking.
Yes.
Okay. So the question number 1 I have here is that this has to do with those the commercial versus the government, and I think you addressed it, but let's spell it out. I've heard that they are accepting sub and commercial work for past performance, or is this only for prime? So I think you were talking about commercial already.
Yeah, on the commercial side, you need to be prime. So say you did a project for Apple. You need to be prime. You can't do a project for XYZ company who did a project for Apple. So that's if you were prime on a commercial project, that's good to go. You just don't get the 300 points for the federal contract. You can get all other points, all other scores. Even the next code, if you can, there is a way to substantiate that you were in the proper next code, even if it was a commercial project. So that as far as the commercial side is concerned. Now, with regards to subcontracts, as I mentioned, you need to be prime on all projects, but there is an exception. If the project was a federal contract and you were sub to a prime, that is acceptable. You can use past performance for that, but it will be considered a commercial project, so you won't get that 300 points for being a federal contract.
Okay. Related to this, this was a general eligibility question. If you do not have any prime contracts under any of the 3 NAICS codes, are you still eligible? I assume that means, if you only have commercial contracts.
Yes, if you have commercial contracts, there is a mechanism to actually substantiate that you were in the proper NACs. You have to get that signed from the people on your commercial side, the owner or your client. If you can do that, then you can use all 6 contracts from the commercial side.
Okay. There was another question that was similarly worded, so I'll just repeat it that way. It says, how are NAICS codes assigned to commercial reps? So basically, you just need some sort of a signed confirmation from your commercial CO?
Yes, and you can also use the, since it's a commercial project, you don't have a CPARS for it, so you have to fill out a past performance questionnaire. And in there, if you put in the NACs, that's fine. That's acceptable.
Okay. All right. The next question was, of the 6 reps, 2 can be, they say 2 can be commercial. How do they define the COTS? Many of our contracts are BPA in nature, and the agency orders off the BPA. Are those considered COTS?
Okay, COTS is something that you consider. In other words, it means that you bunch a number of task orders under one. So it's either a BPA or a multiple award or single award task, IDIQ, and you bunch task orders under it. You can have up from minimum 2 task orders up to 6, and you bunch them together. So if you had a BPA, that's acceptable. You can use that as a COTS. Out of the 6, 2 of them can be COTS. So COTS means combining task orders together. So that's acceptable. I don't know if I answered the question though. To be honest.
All right. We'll keep an eye on the chat just in case. We've got one other one here. Where did I go? Okay, for past performance, will our open ratings report be okay? Now that was a minimalist question, so I'm not sure if that's totally clear. But open ratings report, are you familiar with that one?
Yeah, open rating is for Schedule 70 and that kind. No, it's not acceptable. You need to have a CPARS, or if you don't have a CPARS, you need to fill out a past performance questionnaire, get it signed by the CO, the contracting officer, and get him to send it back to you so that you can put it in the proposal.
All right. Okay. One of the someone has asked, what is a CTA?
Okay, CTAs are for example, a prime sub relationship that your company will be prime, and then you will have a number of subs under you. You can have a CTA in the performance of the HCaTS project. In other words, you can form a CTA, have a number of subcontractors under you. You can only do 50% with subcontractors, if I'm not mistaken. But for the proposal side, as far as the proposal is concerned, unlike Oasis or Alliant or others, where you could bring in subs and things like that, their projects, and get score for it, here you can't. So you can't have a joint venture and you can't have a CTA, teaming arrangement, to get scores for the projects that your subcontractors did. That's not acceptable. So essentially, this relies 100% on your company, what your past performed projects have been, and nothing on your subcontractors. Over.
Gotcha. Okay. This one goes back to the one that we just talked about with the COTS. It's saying in the COTS, are we able to use a COT with 2 task orders under one IDIQ for one of your REPs, and then use a different task order from the same IDIQ as a second REP?
If we are using if I understood correctly, if you're using an IDIQ or a BPA, either one, as a COTS, as a COTS, then you can't use task orders under it separately for REPs. It's either this or that. But you can, for example, say a BPA had 5 or even 6 calls, or an IDIQ had 6 task orders. You can use each of those task orders as a single REP, as a single contract. You can do that, but you can't make a combination. In other words, you can't bunch them together and use as one REP and then use them separately as a different REP. Over.
Okay. This one just has to do with confirmation of the annual revenue. It says, does your commercial projects have a minimum amount? Is that consistent with the government for $2,500 a year? It's $25,000 a year.
Yes, the same. They need to be 25,000 annually. And remember, when they say annually, for example, assume that, let me elaborate on this. Assume that you did a project for only 3 months, because the minimum is 3 months, and the cost was, say, $10,000. When you say annual, because 3 months it was 10,000, for 12 months it would be considered 40,000. So it's acceptable. So look at that annual, the term annual, and it works the other way around. If you did a project for, say, $40,000, but it took 5 years, $40,000 divided by 5 goes below the 25,000 threshold, so you can't use that project. So, but whether it's federal or commercial, it has to be annually $25,000 or above.
Gotcha. Okay. This is another related to the prime, specific, or I should say designation. If we use a subcontract with a federal prime, is the work required to be within the 3 NAICS codes, or will a prime contractor certify the work is within scope? In other words, who makes that designation?
It works both ways, but essentially the best way is for the prime to say it, because sometimes the next code that the prime might have gotten that contract for might be a different next code, but you did training for them. So in that case, customized training, in that case, you can get the prime to actually mention it in the PPQ, the past performance questionnaire, because you can't use a CPARS. Remember, if you were a sub to a prime, the CPARS is for the prime, not you. So for those cases, you have to fill out a past performance questionnaire, and there you can say what the next also was, and this way it gets resolved.
Gotcha. Okay. You've got another one here that says, are the 6 past performance domestic only, or will international-based commercial projects qualify?
They haven't put any limitations on it. So anything, international, anything.
All right. I can't recall if there were any additional points for international, but definitely international is allowed. I think we stated this already, but someone has asked, what is the minimum amount of project you can submit? I'm assuming that means the minimum number of projects you could submit, and I think we've answered that one. But go ahead.
Yeah, 6. You have to submit 6. Even if there were less, there would be no point in it, because each project gets about 4,000. So all those companies that do provide 6 will win. So yes, you have to submit 6 contracts.
Okay. All right. I think we've got one more here. And it says, do we think the CTA JVs not being allowed will be protested? Are they holding strong on to their refusal of this, just going off of the past IDIQs and GWACs? I'm assuming they're saying that this is what they're going off of. But do you think this is going to be protested, the business of CTAs and JVs not being allowed?
Well, the actual protest, I can't say for that whether companies will decide to protest or not. But I do know that GSA has a good case on that, and they're going to probably win. And the case is this. They are basing, at least this is their logic, they say that they're basing their requirements on what they actually bid it in 2016. And they don't want to change that. So that's why they're not allowing CTAs, JVs. They did allow CTAs and JVs on Oasis. They changed that. So that was new on Oasis about a few months ago. But apparently on HCaTS, they've decided not to do that. Over.
Gotcha. Okay. That's all we have for the Q&A that's been submitted through the chat at this point.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, everyone. And if you want to contact us for our services, as I mentioned, you can see my email here, and you can download also the slides, and our emails are there, and we can provide services to you on that. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
All right. Thanks, everyone.